All right, Jesse on fire, and we got to talk about the scandal of the century. Michael Bisping talking to Bryce Mitchell in the octagon, and when Bryce Mitchell requested that Dan Ige do a prayer into the microphone, Bisping took the microphone away, and people are furious. And we're going to talk about that probably in a little bit more serious fashion than I just alluded to there, but and I'll educate people on how those types of decisions are made when you are on a national broadcast, because it's not Bisping making decisions there. There's someone in his ear, like the thing that you see, the producer tells him what to do, right? So if you expect Bisping to come out publicly and say, listen, I am not going to allow a person, one of those crazy Christ followers, to talk all that Jesus God nonsense into the microphone. Like, dude, I'm sorry. More specifically, do you think he's going to say listen, the guys at Disney and ESPN, they told me to shut it down? He's not going to say that. Of course, he works there. If he's taking the heat on Twitter and he's taking heat from people, you think that a smart move as an employee would be to shift the blame to your producer or the show? I don't even know if they have showrunners or whatever, but the person who's in his ear. Actually, it was this guy. Here's his cell phone number, his email. It's not Bisping's decision. Anyway, but I want to talk about that. And then I also want to show you the conversation that the two of them had about flat earth, because that's fascinating. And also, I have very valuable information on flat earth. And I realize how stupid that probably sounds, but I know about flat earth because someone that I know very well was a believer. And so I know a few of the things that they believe, one of which I can personally disprove. Okay. I can personally disprove this one. And that probably sounds ridiculous to you guys, but it is what it is. You guys don't know what my job. I liked it. I liked it better when I was a past tense, a former tech worker. Now I'm a tech worker again. But yeah. So anyway, we'll get into all of that, and it's going to be great. So happy Sunday. Subscribe to the channel if you guys have not yet. Dude, listen, I got all my people playing fantasy right now, and I'm doing this video for you guys because I love you like that, and because I just feel incomplete if I don't put content out. So that is what I'm doing. I would appreciate it if you guys would subscribe if you're going to watch my content. So God, my fantasy team is smashing. I drafted all the Dolphins because Mike McDaniel coaching, and my goodness, they are killing it for me this year. So let's start with the scene itself, and then we're going to discuss.
For your winner by unanimous decision, Thug Nasty, Bryce Mitchell!
I'll be donating $5,000 to Dan Ige tonight to give to people in Hawaii, because I know he lost friends, they lost their homes, they lost their children, and I love these people with all my heart, and we have to show Satan that he can do nothing through the power of Christ when we come together.
So real quick, I just want to pause there just to make one point, because I've been on both sides of this conversation. I went to Catholic high school. I've been, I just have a lot of experience with people who are extremely religious. And so bottom line, I know how they appear to people who are not religious. You hear atheists or people who are not Christian or whatever, or not, serious into their religion. They hear that talk and they think, oh, this guy's to them saying coming together under God, thank you, Jesus Christ, is not that dissimilar from talking about flat earth. That honestly, that's how they interpret that. It's not that dissimilar. It's ridiculous to see it that way. Utterly ridiculous, actually. But that is Sam Harris, guys like that, that it just is. It's like an instant, he's one of those guys. And I just want to say the following, listen to what he's actually saying. Listen to what he's actually saying. He's saying, Dan Ige, I'm donating $5,000 to the Hawaii effort because he lost family and he lost friends, and we need to come together, share love, and take care of our fellow human being. Just regardless of where you sit on he's a good dude. He's a good dude. He's doing what he thinks is right. He's trying to help, and if he sees it through the lens of religion, that's fine, dude. Like it's awesome listen, at the end of the day, religion functions correctly when people live by a specific set of standards and they believe that they are, being judged all the time. It's not a bad thing, dude. It's not a bad, I'm talking to the atheists, and obviously, I have nothing but respect for people who roll hard on the religion. But when he said the thing about Satan, I'm just now, in all seriousness, I'm just like, this was hilarious, because I was online doing a stream with Alan Belcher, and so as soon as he brought up Satan, I was like, oh man, that is legit flat earth to them, like, thank you. I want to say, I'll give it up to God. It's like, all right, like that's how it's not me. I'm saying this is how they interpret, I want to give it up to God. I want to give it up to Jesus. And they're like, oh geez, one of those. I think your training probably had a little bit more to do with it than God. So what? God didn't want Ige to win? It's so stupid. Like, they never even think about this stuff. Shut up. What? Shut up. Why? Why do you care what a person believes or doesn't believe? You know how obnoxious you are? Why don't you go over in the corner with the rest of you judgy little pricks and go fuck yourself? Oh, I didn't know you were one of those guys. I'm not necessarily, but fuck you. Anyway, but the God thing is one thing, but when you say, Lucifer, the Luciferians are taking over the world and we need to come together, that sounds like complete crazy talk to them. Like they're just like, this guy's insane, But let's say hypothetically that if you actually picked Bryce's brain a little bit and you were like, where are you seeing the things that are driving your opinion that there are Satanists that are, trying to take over the world? I would imagine that he would say a lot of things that you'd be like, oh yeah, I do actually not agree with those things at all. And be like, yeah, I know. Yeah. Taking away free speech, like, getting all the food production in one central thing so they can control the population with food, digital IDs, tracking every single thing, you'd be like, yeah, that's totally terrifying and insane. They're dictators. And he's like, yeah, I know. That's what I was saying. The power of Satan. But those are people. Right. But what are their motivations? The people that are doing all this stuff, correct. Yeah. What are they being motivated by? Greed, lust for power, pride. Right. And do those all fall into any category that you can think of? Oh, 7 deadly sins. Right. So what I said. Remember what I said? You said I was crazy. Like, remember that? So maybe not so crazy, maybe not so crazy at all. So you put it in terms like that, and it'll be a little bit more digestible to the average atheist, because anybody understands that greed is not a good thing if it comes at the expense of other people. Anyway, so but nonetheless, as soon as he said the Satan thing, I was like, oh man, because I just know, dude, it's ESPN. It's ESPN, dude. They're like, oh my God, they would rather have Sean Strickland, talking about gays than have Bryce Mitchell talking about Satanists trying to take over the world.
I brought this Bible in here tonight because I do believe Satan is taking over this earth. And something specifically I'm talking about is these fires in Hawaii.
So he didn't specifically say that the globalists started the fires in Hawaii, but that 100% is what he meant. He meant those were intentional. They burned those places out so that they could come in, buy up the land for cheap, and do XYZ. My opinion on that is I don't have an opinion on that. I have absolutely no idea. It would be so idiotic for me to even pretend that I had an opinion on what started the fires. The only thing that I do, the only piece of factual information that I know about that was just at least an interesting note was when they said that they wouldn't give them the water to like put out the fires. there is some guy who's in charge of the distribution of like like they have a certain set amount of fresh water, and he wouldn't allocate it because the first set that normally would have been used got contaminated or something. I don't know. I mean, whatever. You're putting out a fire. I don't see how it'd be contaminated. But nonetheless, I looked at this guy. This guy is a Dunsky. He's not Bill Gates. You know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, that doesn't mean that they didn't start him though. You know, but again, I'm not saying they didn't. Anyway, let's continue. And Bisping did not laugh at anyone's beliefs. I don't understand this. Bisping is laughing at your beliefs. I mean, unless he's talking about the flat earth stuff, which you are very entitled to laugh at. And I will also do the same shortly and explain exactly why I know that flat earth is fucking nonsense. Jesus, we read this 5 times by now. Christ, please don't use the Lord's name in vain. See, like I said, Bisping's in a tough spot here. He can't defend himself.
You're going to stay right here and you're going to pray for this nation. This is your destiny from God. The world is watching you and you're going to pray right now.
And Ige's a big Jesus guy too. Like it's not like Bryce Mitchell is just, putting some random guy on the spot and being like, you're going to pray for the world right now. It's like, Ige's a big church guy.
And I love you.
Well, congratulations on a great fight. Dan Ige, congratulations as well. Bryce Mitchell, Thug Nasty, tremendous performance, my brother.
Please let Dan pray.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner, Thug Nasty, Bryce Mitchell.
I mean, listen, dude. I'm going to assume that there was someone in Bisping's ear that told him not to do it. And nonetheless, if he had to make that call on his own, I'm sorry, that's the right call, dude. That is, like, what he did is the correct call. Have you ever seen a fighter after a fight have a microphone put down in front of them and then have them do any kind of like religious interaction meant to kind of go out to everyone? Because like, this is a bottom line, dude. Like any type of belief, whether it's this nonsensical, like super crazy LGBT stuff that's going through the schools, people like us who have kids and are like, what's our issue? What's our issue with the teachers that are doing this, right? It's like, dude, do not force your shit on us, okay? That's great that you think that people can just switch their gender, but like, that's fucking nonsense to us. And you're a public school teacher. Don't force it down my kids' throats. Bottom line, you're there to teach math. Teach them to solve 10 divided by 2. Teach them about history, who the first president of the country is, things like that, okay? Don't warp their fucking brain. So my belief system about how to interact is just, I'm always very cognizant of consistency. Are my beliefs consistent on both sides? And bottom line, if someone was in the octagon and they were like, I just want to give a shout out to the, the trans community. And I just want to say that I think it's really transphobic when people are, not letting people swim when they're obviously a girl that's 6'4" with a penis, and we actually wrote a speech right now. And here we want to do a speech right now about trans rights. Like you'd be all, get the fuck out of here with that, dude. And, obviously, so putting a microphone and then, kind of broadcasting a prayer unasked for to a bunch of people who are not of that faith or involved. I understand why that makes sense to Bryce and why, but like, it is not dissimilar from the point that I just made. You're forcing it on people. If you put a microphone and they're watching TV, you're forcing that on people that they did not ask for, If you do it in private, right? If you do it in private or with people who opted in, you're sending the same thing out to the world. I do believe in prayer. I really do. I think focused thoughts and energy, is very, very, very impactful on the reality that we live in. However you do it, but like you do it yourselves. You do it yourselves, Anywho, so continuing right along, now let's lighten it up a little bit, and we're going to talk about flat Earth now. So let's rock.
On a flat Earth, there is still a north-south, and there is still a north-south, east, and west. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Four
just
points.
because I believe in
Okay, let me just say this real quick. So the thing about the flat Earth theory is, none of it passes the smell. None of it passes the smell test to begin with. If you listen to the answers, and I'm honestly not even really necessarily harping on Bryce directly, because someone in my family was into this shit. Okay, that's how I learned all about this, and how I know that I actually have information that debunks the whole fucking thing. But it's like when you ask them things that, like, okay, so what's the sun? So what's the moon? And they start answering stuff like that. You're like, okay, so you're in outer fucking space, dude. I get it. Outer space doesn't exist. The sun and the moon in flat Earth world are projections onto a dome. Like, we're just in a dome, the flat dome, projections onto the dome. And when you're like, okay, so, but all the people who have been lying, pretending the Earth is round, what is the purpose? Why would they do that? And he's like, and he told me, it's to disprove God. It's like so that you could crush religion. I'm like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. Anyway, but the biggest thing, like I said, that I have like scientific ability to shut down is coming up here. Hang on.
flat Earth doesn't mean I don't believe in east and west. Now, the reason that he appears to see a curve is because the windshield is fucking curved. Did you ever think about that?
Yeah, so pilots, the reason they see a curve in the Earth is because the windshield's curved. That's what I'm saying. You're like, come on, dude. There's no way that that's a widely believed answer in the face of all the evidence that the fucking Earth is round.
No, hold on. You've seen this. And if anyone hasn't seen this, Google what I'm talking about. You must have seen these very passionate flat earthers, and they did an experiment to prove the Earth was flat. But then when they did it, they proved the Earth was a spherical object.
Right. They were looking through two different lenses, right?
I don't even.
See, watch. And now, Bryce, because every one of them will do something like this. I don't believe it. They think anything. They think it's really bizarre, dude, where it's like anything that comes out that would disprove flat Earth, they don't believe it. They don't believe it, and they think it's like intentional disinformation, which again, you're like, who would go through the effort globally of tricking the world into the Earth being round, and why? It's like, it just doesn't, but they won't listen. Right. He's like, I don't watch it. I don't believe it.
I don't even watch those videos because they're all bullshit. Let me tell you something, Bisping. Your brother-in-law, he ain't flown up 10 foot higher than 40,000 feet. Unless if your brother has flown a fucking SR-71 Blackbird, he ain't flown a foot fucking higher than 40,000 feet. He flies commercial at 30,000 feet. You can take a GoPro on a fucking balloon at 130,000. Do you understand?
I'm laughing at the passion, that's all.
Do you understand? You can take a helium balloon and get it to 130,000 feet, 4 times higher than your brother-in-law will ever fucking fly. And at 130,000 feet, you can see with a flat lens that the world is flat.
It's like the entire premise is so fucking stupid. I honestly can't. Like, I'm trying to be nice, but I'm sorry, dude. This is retardville. Like, this is the dumbest fucking shit of all time. Okay, you want to know what the main thing that flat earthers don't grasp? Like, if you actually listen to them, like, the thing that they do not grasp is how fucking tiny we are in comparison to the Earth. Okay, like, when you actually can get a grasp, because I'm talking satellites now, because that's how I know this is all bullshit. I was in aerospace before this. Anyway, we'll get into it. But like, when you start with a wide view of Earth, like Earth, and then you start zooming in, and then zooming in, and then zooming in, and then zooming in, and zooming in, and you actually get an idea of how fucking minuscule we are in relation to the Earth, then it's pretty straightforward, dude. Like, oh, I'd be able to see it because it would just go forever. You're like, dude, if you're looking at the globe, you could take the tiniest thumbtack of all time and just barely put it into the globe, and that tack itself would represent way longer than you are able to even fucking see visually in these experiments you're talking about. Like, you are like so much smaller than you realize. I don't believe that I actually am having to do this, but so okay, I'm just gonna get to it, right? So here's the deal. When you like any kind of theory like this, you just ask a lot of questions. Like, let's just get down to the brass tacks. What do you guys believe? Here. And you just look to kind of gauge, all right, so like, is this built on solid foundation or is this built on nonsense? Because like, as an example, if you were going to talk about a conspiracy theory that people immediately dismiss but shouldn't, which is built on very solid evidence, we would talk about, remember one of those things I said are projected, like, so there's a sun and a moon, right? So like, if you take a real close look at when we supposedly went there, there is an astronomical amount of extraordinarily fishy shit. Like, and also the kind of foundational things about it when you kind of learn, a little bit more about it. I'm trying not to say anything in this video because they really genuinely will actually take your video off if you talk specifically about the moon landing. But they supposedly went 237,000 miles each way on a shuttle that had the computing power of a TI-82 calculator. Okay? We've never gone back since then. Not once. Not one human being has ever gone back since. All of them happened during the Nixon presidency, also during the Cold War and the Vietnam War, right? Aside from those missions, what's the furthest that humans have been off of Earth ever? Like the furthest. So it's like, that's 237,000 miles one way, 237,000 miles back. So what's the next furthest that humans have gone on a manned mission? 600 miles. 600 miles, okay? 600 is in second place. Moon landing's 237,000, okay? Think about $600 in your hand and then think about 237,000, okay? If that doesn't bring up any red flags for you, you're an idiot, okay? Also, did you know that it's depending on if the sun is hitting it or not, you're looking at either 350 degrees on the surface of the moon or negative 350 degrees on the surface of the moon, okay? That's not even starting to get into the fact that there are provable dozens of pictures of the moon landing that are absolutely fake for 100% sure, right? So I'm not saying that I know for sure. I don't know. I'm just saying that when people start talking about fake moon landing, start asking them some questions. Be like, so why are you suspicious of that? Because if they start talking about, aliens on the far side of the moon, you're like, all right, just because it's the same, suspicious thing like the moon landing doesn't mean that you're both talking about the same thing. Okay. There's solid foundational suspicious stuff on that one. And that it's on solid ground is my point. And there's much more that I could talk about there. Like the Van Allen radiation belt. Okay. There's a radiation belt that's all around the Earth. And if you actually listen, they didn't even know it was there when they said that they went there and back. And now we know that that's why we can't go more than 600 miles because any human would die going through it. But it's fine. It's probably legit. It's probably legit. Anyway, but so on the flat Earth, so a long way of getting to this, start asking things like the following. Let me retract. And the reason we did the moon landing was to distract from the Vietnam War. And also it was the ultimate psyop to try to bankrupt the Soviet Union. And there was a space race with the nukes because at the time people thought you were going to be able to create an actual nuclear base on the moon. I know it sounds ridiculous. Go watch the documentary, Fog of War with McNamara. He said that it was what the space race was about. It was about, they thought that the moon was going to be a staging point for nuclear missiles. They're crazy, dude. They're completely crazy. But so they wanted to pretend like we had already captured that land and get them to spend all their money. It makes a lot of sense. Anyway, so, but like, so with the flat earth thing, right? The one I can disprove. So I asked my relative. It's my cousin. I asked him, so what about all the pictures of the earth that are very clearly round? He's like, they're fake. I'm like, they're fake. He's like, yeah, they're fake. And I'm like, okay, so who faked them and how? And he explained to me that in flat earth lore, that NASA is not real, and also satellites are not real. That like satellites are, it's fake. Like satellites don't exist. The satellites that orbit the earth, they don't exist. And I was like, okay, so I don't want to be the destruction of your entire worldview in a way that's going to shock your system, you know? But like as an example, I worked at Planet Labs, this company, okay? I was putting together deals with investment banks, enterprise agriculture, and I can tell you absolutely unequivocally that satellites are not fake at all. Definitely not fake. We had we had 100. I think our constellation at the time, we had 164 satellites of one type, and then I think we had like maybe 50 of the other. And he started talking about Antarctica not being real. He's like, how come you can't ever see pictures of Antarctica? I'm like, I looked at pictures of Antarctica 1,000 times. I mean, not 1,000. I did it enough to see that there's nothing there. You know, he's like, no, like, are you sure? Like me telling him that I worked for a satellite company and have used the system 1,000,000 times was like, I could tell he was like, wait, really? Because he knows me, dude. I'm not going to just make shit up. Like, he knew I worked there. So this whole, like, their belief system is based on satellites not being real, those pictures being faked, and I could tell you absolutely for 100% sure that that is not accurate, that satellites are real. We used to have access. Our company took a picture of every square foot of the earth at least once a day. We're the only company that could do that. In our lower resolution stuff, there's not a point on earth that we did not image at least once every 24 hours. So, and then, you create these huge mosaics. So like you can literally look at anything on earth at any time. That's why like the investment banks wanted to look at it. So if there's like some, like say there was a natural disaster in New Orleans or something, or I don't know, Georgia, like, Europe, Georgia. And they wanted to look at like some huge coal plant to see if they were going to be up and running after some emergency or whatever. So they go look and see if they can assess the damage to it or whatever, because then they could trade on it. They had artificial intelligence that would they would track specific, like specific airports to see, like that were central hubs of different airlines, so they can use AI layers on top of the imaging to track how many airplanes were like at this main hub, and they would somehow turn that into like valuable edge to trade on. So bottom line though, satellites are fucking real. Flat Earth is fucking nonsense. It's stupid. And there's nothing that can discredit you more than promoting that dumbass shit. And I don't care if you can get a GoPro to go up 120 feet, because that's what he says, like 120,000 feet he's on. From there, you can see, because the lens is flat, so you can see the flat. I'm like, oh my God, dude. Anyway, that's what I got. Love you guys. If you guys want more Jesse on Fire content, members only, son, I got all that content for you. Yeah. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Love you guys. Bye.